And today we're going to talk about whether Kriya Yoga practice, even meditation practice in general, is dangerous. And we need to remember that anything that we do, strong breath awareness, pranayama, hatha yoga, or any exercise routine, it's a good idea to make sure that it's okay for your body, for your constitution. What's the best way to figure that out? Maybe check with your doctor. That can always be helpful. So it's recommended before you begin any particular yoga procedure, yoga routine, pranayama, asana, whatever it might be, you need to get yourself checked out. Make sure you're all right. There's nothing wrong. And the reason I bring this up is because you don't want to hurt yourself, especially when it comes to hatha yoga practice. A lot of people think they're stronger than they are, or more flexible than they are, or they push their boundaries or re-injure old injuries. It happens all the time. So you need to have good body awareness. You have to have good awareness of your limitations and your capacities. Kriya Yoga practice, as any meditation practice, it does require that a person is already, at least somewhat, psychologically, mentally, and emotionally healthy. Why? Because it's really easy to get caught up in fantasy. It's really easy to get caught up in the difficulties within your psyche, your unconscious. And that can be problematic for people, especially if they don't have the capacity to handle it that well. So this is why when anyone contacts me asking about Kriya Yoga or meditation practice, again, the first thing I say is do your best to make sure that you are psychologically healthy, emotionally healthy, mentally healthy, because you'll be able to understand the process much better. If you don't have any psychological issues, major psychological issues to work through, it's less likely that you'll misinterpret what is being taught within the Yoga Sutras, within Kriya Yoga philosophy in general. So you need to keep this in mind, because essentially if you're a little imbalanced and a little crazy, well, doing meditation can make you think about some pretty abstract things, and that can make it worse sometimes. So you need to make sure that you are already emotionally balanced, you've got a good head on your shoulders, you've got a good capacity for doubt, a good capacity for skepticism, a good capacity to trying things out, to not just cutting things off, but thinking to yourself, okay, this teacher or this book or whatever it might be says this, so I'm not just going to swallow it all hook, line, and sinker. I'm going to taste it first. I'm going to try it. I'm going to ask questions. Not in the sense to be critical, but because you're curious. You have to remember the difference between skepticism and doubt. Healthy skepticism and healthy doubt is very good. Healthy skepticism and healthy doubt is more curiosity. You really want to know. You sincerely want to know. But on the other hand, when you're just contacting someone and you're asking them a question because you already think they're wrong, well, that's not healthy skepticism and that's not healthy doubt. So always remember, when it comes to any kind of spiritual practice, you want to have healthy skepticism and healthy doubt. And anyone that tries to get you to believe everything without questioning, you want to be careful there. But then again, you also don't want to be annoying. I mean, sometimes people just ask so many questions that eventually they just need to quit asking questions and try it. So that's important. Now, the other aspect about meditation practice and Kriya Yoga specifically, yoga in general, and when I'm talking about yoga, I mean the full system of yoga, the system that allows you to experience self-realization, samadhi. Well, the clearer you get inside, the easier it is for your thoughts to manifest. Meaning that right now, everything that you're experiencing is the result of all that stuff, that program that's going on inside of you, whether you know about it or not. So what you're experiencing is already manifesting itself. The difference when someone starts practicing meditation and yoga correctly, they start becoming aware of this. So they can start realizing what certain thoughts, feelings, states of consciousness lead to certain experiences. And once they do that, then they have to start practicing detachment from those things, or redirecting one's consciousness in a different direction. That's why we have the gunas, guna theory, both in yoga and Ayurveda. We start at tamas, which is an inert, dull, ignorant state. We move to rajas, which is getting things done, being active, and this is very broad and loose, so keep that in mind, to the sattvic state of peace and clarity. And as you move through these things, then you have to activate, when you're practicing meditation, you're moving out of the dull, inert, ignorant state of tamas, and you're being aware of all the unconscious stuff, so you become more aware. And then you move into the rajasic state, which is now dealing with it, whether it's going to counseling, therapy, just changing your thoughts, your behaviors, your actions, your expectations. You have to do that. That's part of Kriya Yoga practice. That's part of any self-realization path, is to actually do that. So this isn't a passive path where you just meditate and you become more aware and then let things just go. You can, I suppose. That's no problem with that. Complete surrender, although whatever is down there you'll experience. But the point being is that the more you meditate, the clearer you get with Kriya Yoga, the easier it is for you to know things, to sense things, to perceive things, to see your thoughts more easily, readily manifest, which means that if you start to have a thought, oh, I think something difficult is going to happen, or maybe I shouldn't do that, that is an awareness that you can be aware of, so now you can change it. It's very hard at first, but the more you practice, the easier it gets. So what's the danger then? The danger then is that the clearer you get, the easier your states of consciousness manifest. And so if you've got a bunch of garbage down in there, or a bunch of messy karma, difficult karma, well then when you start thinking about that as you're clear, it actually happens faster. And that's why we move from tamas to rajas to sattva, and that's why we try to practice friendliness, we try to practice compassion, truthfulness, all these things, because it is essentially reconditioning our consciousness to experience the results of those things, and the results of truth, the results of friendliness, the results of compassion, the results of training your consciousness to experience love, faith, all of these things. That keeps you from experiencing the other end of the spectrum. So essentially what we're doing is we are, hopefully, as we're practicing meditation and Kriya Yoga, we're also cultivating these other ideas, these other concepts. Because whether things are good or bad, it doesn't matter. Consciousness, the rest of the universe doesn't care what's going on inside you. It's just going to reflect what is going on inside you. So if you start letting go of the negative aspect, and that's not to say the negative aspect is you want to hide from it, or you want to forget about it, or push it away. You're not being obsessive or compulsive about it. You're admitting that it's there, but then you're deciding, I don't really want to experience that, so you change it. So it's just like anything in your life. You can let things be in your life, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you have difficult relationships, difficult money situations, whatever it might be, it's okay to say, you know what? I don't want that in my consciousness anymore. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not that you are avoiding it. You're actually dealing with it. You're saying, I want to cultivate this other aspect of myself, prosperity. I want to cultivate the willpower and the strength of mind to actually do something that allows me to provide for myself financially, or to be healthy, whatever it might be. So don't look at this as good or bad. Just look at it as a choice. Which way do you want to go? And the clearer you become through meditation practice, and the clearer you become through Kriya Yoga practice, the easier it is to do that. How long does it take? Some people move quicker than others. It might take years, might take months, might take a couple days. Depends on you. So try not to think about it. Try not to compare yourself to other people. But what you'll find is that the more sincere you are, the longer you practice, you admit there's good and bad in the world, there's good and bad within yourself, it's all one infinite consciousness, just a different polarity. And then you start choosing, all right, this thought's coming up, this state of consciousness is coming up, I don't want to experience that, so I'm going to put my attention elsewhere. Then you are reconditioning your consciousness to experience a sattvic, pure, clear state. And that becomes your natural state. So just like people who are problem-centered, and they always have problems or always have drama, that's just their natural state, because they've made choices that support it, or they haven't made choices that get rid of it. Right? We have to remember that. So it's all about choice. And part of the Kriya Yoga path is this choice. And again, the danger of Kriya Yoga, the danger of any meditation or spiritual practice, is that the clearer you get, the easier it is that your inner states reflect the outer states. So you want to make sure as you go, you are actually cultivating positive inner states of consciousness. One thing that I do nearly at the end of every meditation is the last 5 minutes or so, I imagine or feel that I am pure self-knowledge, that I am pure love, and that I am pure fulfillment. So it's not that I'm attributing these to anything. I'm not saying I will be experiencing self-knowledge once I practice so many kriyas, or I'm not saying I will experience love once someone gives me attention, or I will experience fulfillment once I get this thing. I'm just saying right now, that is what I am. That is what I experience. And I imagine as though it's not just me, this body, this personality, but all of consciousness, the chair that I'm sitting in, the room that I'm in, the neighborhood that I'm in, the world that I'm in, all the people that I know and see, as though those are fractals or aspects of myself, and that within that wholeness of creation, this feeling of complete and pure fulfillment, love, and self-knowledge is resonating. I just choose that. And what I found is that when I do that, my days typically go better. My interactions with people typically go better. So keep in mind that it's okay to do these things. And it's not that you are denying aspects of yourself, because that's a whole other trip that people have. Sometimes you might meet someone, and maybe you are calm and clear inside. And they come up to you and they say, oh, well, you must not be in touch with your shadow side because you're not suffering, or you're not currently in a dramatic situation. So that they're sort of projecting. they're revealing their own addiction to drama. But this is not to say that you do not address the darker aspects of yourself, or it's not to say that you disregard the fact when you're in a bad mood. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's part of life. Things come and they go. There are storms, there's sunshine, there's cold, there's heat, there's good moods, there's bad moods. It's all part of the mix. So we need to be aware of that. And you want to avoid people who accuse you of not dealing with your stuff just because you're not always in tizzy or dramatic or having problems. Of course, it may be that you haven't dealt with your stuff. That is very possible. But if you have, then don't listen to them. For example, in my own life, I got my undergraduate degree in psychology. I also went on to be a body worker in the healing profession. So you can imagine that years of study of psychology, working with clients and their problems, and working through my own issues through all different kinds of modalities, there were things that needed to be worked out, and that was part of the Kriya Yoga process for me. And hopefully it is the process for everyone too. So, number one, you don't want to take on drama just because someone else thinks you should. Nor do you want to ignore if you haven't dealt with certain issues. If you find yourself having anger issues, depression, and it's really interfering with your life, well, then that might be an indication that you need to work on that. Talk to someone. Get some professional advice. Don't look to spirituality for that, because then spirituality becomes an escape. Spirituality, Kriya Yoga practice, yoga meditation, is for knowing what you are. It's not for making you happy. It's not for training you how to make money. It's not for making you more healthy, although these things may occur. It's for knowing what you are. If you want to be psychologically happy, go talk to a counselor. If you have physical issues, go get a massage, talk to a doctor. If you can't make enough money, go to college to learn how money works. Otherwise, you're just going to be you're going to be ignoring the problems and trying to get spirituality to do something for you, which you actually need to do for yourself. So always remember this. Anyway, back to the point. With Kriya Yoga practice, with meditation practice, the main dangers are, number one, the clearer you get, the easier your consciousness will reflect your inner states, the more quickly it will reflect your inner states, and the more knowing you are about that. And that can be a problem if you don't have control, or if you do not have the capacity to master your states of consciousness. And that's why spiritual people are often referred to as masters, because they've mastered their states of consciousness, their inner state of consciousness. They know what they are. Number two, the other difficulty might be if you are psychologically, mentally, emotionally unhealthy, a meditation practice might really put that in your face. And if you don't have the resources to deal with that, that can be a problem. So you need to find the resources to deal with that. And as mentioned, many of you have watched the Kriya Yoga Pranayama videos, but I do not think you've watched the When Not to Practice Kriya Pranayama videos. So please go back to the channel and re-watch When to Not Practice Kriya Pranayama. There are times when you don't want to be practicing certain pranayama procedures, but meditation can always be practiced in one form or another. So, it was good talking to you again. We'll be in touch with some new videos in a little while. The Kriya Yoga webinar is completely full at this time. If we get enough people interested, I can try to expand the hosting service that I have. But as of right now, July 1st or 2nd, I think it's the 2nd, it's completely full. So we've got 24 participants, and some people participating through MP3 practice. And if you want more information on that, go to ashevillevedicastrology.com, and the announcement is up there. But we'll have some more classes coming up in the fall, focusing on the Yoga Sutras. That's the next step that I would like to really endeavor to go deep with people, to explore and see how to use the Yoga Sutras, because there's a formula to them. And if you understand what they're saying and how to access that formula, it's really profound. Very excellent foundation for Kriya Yoga practice. So be well, and we'll be in touch soon.